Hi, everyone. Um, Mark Chassereau from R744.com. Apologies for the delay in this video live stream. We had some technical issues. I guess that comes with the fact that this is the first time we're doing this. So thank you for your patience. I wanted to just start off with a few background points about R744.com, about the live stream, and then the topics that we're going to cover with Andreas. So first off, the idea behind this video live stream, and this is something that we want to do, we want to start doing on a weekly, bi-weekly basis now via R744.com. It's really to showcase leadership. So discussions with CEOs who are in the market, who are aware of what the issues are in the market, where their vision of how that market is going to change. So this is why we're really happy to have Andreas. But we also are going to have video live streams with companies, partners of R744.com who want to present their latest product innovations. So the combination of the product innovations and the CEO interviews, we think is going to be very valuable for the industry. And why video live stream? Because it's live, first of all. So you have the glitches like we just had now, but you can interact with people. And you can watch this right now on R744.com homepage, on YouTube, and shortly on LinkedIn. And you'll be able to submit comments. And we can use those questions and comments during the 1 hour conversation that we have with Andreas today. So the idea is that with these video live streams, as we build this new channel of communication, it will have a multi-platform approach. So the idea is that not only will you be able to view and discuss and learn via R744.com, but you'll also be able to see that on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram and other platforms as we become more comfortable with this technical solution. So we think that's great in terms of reaching new audiences. So what is R744.com for those of you that don't know? It's basically the leading platform, leading source, has been for 15 years, about everything to do with CO2 as a refrigerant, whether that's for cooling or heating applications worldwide. It's generated millions of page views over the last decade plus. So it's been read by many of the experts around the world, 100 plus countries, probably around about 150 countries, and all types of stakeholders, going from government regulators to obviously end users, the final consumers, to OEMs, rack manufacturers, component suppliers, academics, everyone watches it, reads it. So it's a well-known source. And you know, we've now revamped the website to really reposition it as an independent global marketplace where companies will be able to present their solutions to a global customer base. And the fact that R744.com is independent is, we think, very valuable in terms of being able to have genuine reviews, rankings of products, and comparing systems and solutions. So we see a big future for R744.com going forward. So now about today, you can probably see Andreas right now sitting in his product showroom with a rack behind him and the name TEKO above his name. So really happy to have Andreas Meier, who's the CEO of TEKO. Andreas, I've known Andreas a few years now. He's a character in this industry. He's a well-known personality. He's definitely got opinions, and he's delivered on those, and that's really important here. And he's got a vision for his company, his team, and for the industry. You know, he's worked with many different natural refrigerants and synthetic refrigerants over the last couple of decades. Worked for a variety of different companies, global players, and now as CEO of TEKO, which is effectively a rack manufacturer based in Germany in the Frankfurt area. He's trying to build TEKO as a global player, leveraging its know-how around CO2 that it's been building over the last 10, 15 years. So yeah, we've agreed to talk about a few things, a few topics. The range of topics that we want to cover today are going from the latest innovations in the marketplace that Andreas wants to talk about, a variety of different applications where we can see CO2-based solutions coming, different geographical markets. So what's the potential for CO2 beyond Europe? Legislation, because there are some different pieces of legislation being revised around the world, particularly in Europe with the EU F-gas regulation, and that's going to create a lot of opportunities for natural refrigerants, we believe. Then something really close to Andreas's heart are the supply chain issues that are linked very much to the COVID pandemic and how to manage that relationship with his different suppliers so that he can then bring his products to his customers on time. And then linked also to that is the change, hiring talent to deliver these increasingly diverse products to an increasingly diverse group of customers. So a lot to talk about. And as I said earlier, at the very beginning of this intro, you will also be able to submit comments and questions. So yeah, over to you, Andreas. Maybe you could just, I'll let you talk now.
So hi, everybody. It's also for me the first time for a live stream, but I think it's quite nice because you cannot really prepare something. You cannot, you just, what is coming out of your mouth is there. So that is maybe the danger with myself, but okay, let's keep it like that.
Yeah.
The only Mark said, don't use,
track.
Yeah, he made a buzzer for me, so don't use some F words, and he makes a buzzer. But the rest is fine. We are lucky this week is the first real nice sunny week in Germany, at least in our area, where we have a nice sunshine, 30 degrees. So yes, take it
Everyone's
from there.
Happy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, not everyone is happy because we are busy. Huh? So everybody in the moment in the industry is completely busy and, is ramping up a lot, and supply chain keeps us busy. That was you mentioned before.
Yeah, but I mean, you were telling me earlier that you're as TEKO, you're at full capacity right now. You're actually you're full. You're completely full, and you need to hire more people.
Yes, we need to hire more people, but this is not. I don't mean about workers. So we have so much things, in my brain and everywhere around. All my stuff has ideas. So we have to get more R&D capacity. We have to get more engineers. But I'm not talking about maybe the high class engineers. I'm more looking for the street fighter mentality, what we need, because, it is like that, our industry is not very well known. In Germany, we have a big problem because you have all the big car players, around. And if you engineers try to go to this safe zone, let's say it like that.
Yes.
And of course, going to big companies. And as we are in the nut industry, mostly, smaller companies are inside. So medium-sized companies. So they are not aware of that and what is going on in our industry. So in refrigeration, we really have a lack, even on site engineers, but for engineers in generally, we have a lack. I think that is a fact. We need to have more people which are willing to do this nice job. And I'm passionate for that job. And I think all in my team, and greetings to everybody, outside in the industry, we need to get more people focused on our industry. That is one core thing. And with all the changes, natural refrigerants, it's a very nice ball game for everybody who is interested in technology and new technology to leverage himself and to get things going, Even students, when they're ready with university, it's easy to start because you start anywhere from zero sometimes, If I'm looking now for guys, we made some ads out, people applying to us, nobody of them has any clue about natural refrigerants so far. So you start from zero. So it doesn't matter where your zero starts from. So that is the problem we are having in our industry, in generally, but with nut refs, even more. And now people sneaking around, companies trying to get from other companies, and all these things happening, which is quite normal. But I think if we do more altogether for our industry to get more people really dedicated to our industry, it would be great.
So I think there's a clear need that our industry, we do a bad sales job in general. When I got into the industry 20 years ago, wow, 20 years ago, that sounds like a long time already. I had no clue about natural refrigerants either. And it's only when I realized the potential of natural refrigerants and how they could do something good with that and that cooling in general, refrigeration, heating applications are everywhere. Everyone on this planet literally uses it. Maybe 6 out of the 7 billion people at least. And the 1 billion that don't want to also use these technologies. So everyone will end up using them, and they have a huge impact, much more than the car industry if you put them all together. And natural refrigerants is a great story for the new generation because, you know, it's about doing the right thing for the environment, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But like you said, it's a street fight as well. So you need people that are ready to, you know, go down to the details and not just the generalities of natural refrigerants versus HFCs. You know, you need to talk about the actual technologies themselves and how efficient they are and how they work together and et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, and you also have to be willing in our industry. I think everybody's clear. We mostly don't have a 9-to-5 job. So sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, you know, but this is, if I look to the side jobs, which, you know, our customers are doing, for them, it's even harder to get somebody, you know, into this market. But I think if you are in dedication, it's the best job you can have.
Yeah, I love what I do. I know you do too. And I think many of us in the industry do. And I come across a lot of people in the industry around the world that really think they're doing the right thing. And it's more than just a job. It's a vocation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that if we can convey that kind of message to the new generation, and they'll bring in their own ideas and innovations, it can only really help, I believe. And it'll be a global thing. I mean, as a German player, you're also present in other markets, right? You have an operation in Thailand. You're looking at other markets like Latin America. Are you looking to hire in those regions too, or is it only right now in Germany?
No, we try also to hire there. It depends on the region and what is the focus at the moment, you know.
Sure.
So it's slowly picking up. So we see some areas picking up faster in South America. So we have good customers there, good friends which are working there. So they are really on a high level already. And what I recognized, you know, as Germans, you always think your engineering is very high and the highest one in the world and so on. And I never forget my first business trip to Thailand. I think it's 15 years ago. I was at that time product manager for heat exchangers at Cuba. You know, I was going there and I thought I can tell these guys there in a seminar how to measure the correct superheat and how to adjust an air cooler. This was they all listened to me, smiling. And afterwards, one guy was coming and said, "Hey, guy, nice, but you know how we do it?" And then he showed me what they invented, how to measure proper. And I know at that time I knew, okay. It's not not only Europeans which are great, so it's around the world in our industry which are good people. So.
Absolutely, it's a global industry, and there's global talent. Absolutely agree on that. Absolutely agree.
We are searching for that, but that's coming back to the marketing point, Mark. You know what you said before through Instagram and YouTube and so on, because I think we need to address it's an industry. You know, also that natural refrigerants is very important to push there and market in the young generations that this is a very good to work for.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did a bit of analysis of this. I mean, that's partly why we're doing this live stream on these. We want to do these live streams on these channels in the future as well, and that's where the audience is, the new generation. A lot of the younger generation are on YouTube and Instagram. That's where they consume their content first.
You know, for us in the industry, you know, we have a market which is growing. So on the other side, we have a lack of people in our industry. I think it's not only up to us. I think it's everybody has the same problem. So we need to also go there because now we created a market, which is nice. And now we need to create also on the people side awareness of that, what we do.
Yeah, there's a big effort.
Social networking.
There's a big effort there needed. Absolutely agree. All right. Well, tell us about well, I don't know if you want to talk more about the innovations because I see you got a few products behind you. Are there, you know, you said that one of the innovations that you're particularly interested in is the smaller systems, heat pump applications using small rotary compressors. Maybe you could touch upon that because that's a new niche market that has a huge potential again, right?
Yes, of course. If you look on the refrigeration, on the properties of the refrigerant CO2 special, and you see what is now available as components, you see there is a great potential. And, in Japan, they're using already as a heat pump, the EcoCute since I don't know how many years.
20 years.
I think I sold the first one in Europe. The Japanese EcoCute I sold in 2000. I don't remember, but it was a long time ago. So it's something which is there. And at that time, it was not the right time. But now is the right time. Now with the new components, the small compressors. Later on, I can show with my camera. Here's a small compressor from a brand Panasonic, rotary. You can have this capacity.
Show us. Can you show us on the camera now?
Yeah, no
Probably
problem.
Easier.
Just go around. So, let's see. Okay. So here you can see a small unit and a small compressor at the side, because here is our showroom. So here is one rack, another rack. Here's a chiller.
Chillers.
Here two chiller. Yeah, this is our showroom, how it looks like. So now I have to fix my camera again. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, but there's really a great potential, and we're getting now more and more components for the high pressure, which is ready to do this application also. And we see more reliability on the components. So I think it's the next steps that need to be done on that side. So I don't know if we are the right company, because we are a small company, but I think some big ones will pick it up on these markets, because it's very interesting and we have a lot of demands. So even one of my colleagues is already heating up his swimming pool with a CO2 unit like that.
Yeah.
So there's nothing, it's available, this technology. You can use it. We are investing now in a climate chamber here, where we can have humidification and temperatures up to -20 to test also this application. Not only in the winter time in Germany, so we can test all these severe issues to have a proper defrosting and so on. So it's something which is needed for the industry. So I'm really looking forward for this application. But if you look for large applications, it's anyway already, there is a market. You can easily design CO2 heat pumps for a certain range. You can easily design chillers for every range.
Well, chillers is a big one. Hold on. You said easily designed chillers. Yeah. So wait, your traditional business has been refrigeration racks for supermarkets. That's your business, your core business, and you built expertise around CO2, and you've supplied. Checked your website just before this interview, over 5,000 CO2 units worldwide. Okay, so that you're a big player now. Okay, 5,000 units. There are not that many rack manufacturers that can beat that around the world.
Yes, there are other ones too. You're not the only one.
Of course, no, you're not the only one, and there are bigger ones. Okay, but 5,000 is a good number. Okay, but what you're saying here is that you're also looking at other markets, other applications, other opportunities to kind of leverage that CO2 core competence that you have. And
of course,
the biggest market is the chiller market.
Yes.
Cooling people. Yeah, making sure that they're all working in a nice, cool environment so they can be productive, especially as the summers get warmer and warmer, as we get more and more global warming. So it's only going to reinforce the need for cooling. My assumption is that the innovation with CO2, but not only CO2, there'll be other natural refrigerants like hydrocarbons and ammonia and water coming into the chiller market. But you're looking at CO2 in particular, but that innovation, CO2 chillers, isn't going to come from the incumbents right now that use synthetic-based refrigerants, right?
It cannot, because it's not possible.
Why?
It's a knowledge thing, and also they don't have the tooling and everything, the components ready. Because we are just using high-pressure copper. You need different tools, to manufacture all these things. You cannot use a standard one. It's not working out. And they basically don't have knowledge. And when you talk to somebody, they still have a lot of fear about the high pressure. Strange-wise. So
that's a clear opportunity, right? That's a clear opportunity for TEKO, but also for some of your competitors to say, well, maybe we can go into the chiller market, right? But that's the biggest of all. That's like 2/3 of the needs around the world, right? So if you do it right, this is a huge market.
That's a huge market. You know, partly it can be very good covered by propane also, you know, it's
Yes.
available. In
Yep.
some regions you cannot use, on some applications you cannot use.
Yep.
Sometimes it depends on the efficiency. Even CO2 is more efficient than propane. So it really depends on the individual project. You have ammoniac for bigger projects, which is available. Yep. Chillers since a long time. Yes. You know, we have chillers from ammoniac, we have propane chillers, but I think CO2 specific with these properties. If you are looking on a certain application where you need a heat and a cooling, in the winter you need a heat, in the summer you need a cooling. There it really shows its properties. So you can really, if you go for that one, I think that is a big game. That will be a big game. So the reversible heat pump, that is something.
And just when you talk about these, you were showing a CO2 chiller there. What kind of building is that for?
That is for
kind of situate
air conditioning. Standard air conditioning.
But that's a standard air conditioning for just a commercial building, where an office environment.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's for its designed. But you know, even our R&D guys, we are using a normal CO2 condensing unit for the air conditioning of our offices in the R&D since I think 2 years now. So
because you've been testing that yourselves in your own office, and it's worked without fail, without problems.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just you don't get so nice designed, you know, indoor units. So you need to live with what is available on the refrigeration market, and this is maybe not the nicest design, but the rest is clear. You know, but the R&D guys like to do that.
Okay. So then, if one would argue that from a legislative point of view, one of the reasons why CO2 in particular really became the standard solution in Europe for commercial refrigeration over the last decade. And I remember 10 years ago, people telling us that will never happen. You were one of them saying, yes, it will. And so was I. And I think we can safely say that we were right on this one. You know, what's going to happen in the next 10 years? Can we assume that the next 10 years are going to be about natural refrigerants taking over in the air conditioning market too? Is this the beginning of a new transition?
Yes.
Especially if you've got legislation that pushes towards that.
I 100% believe in that. There is no other way, because what is the real difference? If you look now what you really can use, you're looking on the HFOs. And if you look on the real HFOs, you see A2L, and A2L is slightly flammable. Slightly flammable and flammable, yeah.
It's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah. But we're not going to talk about how those standards were designed, because then it gets too political. But you're right. Okay. But beyond the flammability, what we're starting to see are many more reports now. Academics, governments, research institutes, independent experts, who are not funded by the synthetic refrigerant industry, are starting to observe some worrying trends about the latest generation of HFOs, that they're not as good as they claim to be on multiple fronts. But I guess this is not the purpose today. We're talking about CO2, but that can only help CO2, I think, going forward.
You know, the problem is with all these synthetics. You just know really what happens after 5, 10, maybe 15, 20 years. That was the same what's happening before. Yes. You know, you just know really the output, what is happening in 10, 15 years. And then it's quite too late. And we know natural refrigerants are the oldest refrigerants which are existing.
Yeah.
So what's the reason for using an HFO? I don't get it still. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know it's money.
Yeah.
It's money. Unfortunately, I mean, that businesses need to make money, right? It's as simple as that. But hopefully there are more and more businesses in the industry that are starting to see that they can actually be more profitable, more sustainable working with natural refrigerants rather than the synthetic refrigerants. Yes. And it's just a matter of time before that becomes the norm, not just in Europe, but other markets. Now, why, going back to geographies, Europe has really been the leader in this space together with Japan. I think we can say those have been two leading regions when it comes to CO2. Where else do you see potential growth for CO2? For your traditional, you've got a CO2 rack behind you. Where do you see that rack being shipped to now? I mean, I read somewhere, I read on R744.com that you had recently installed one in Israel.
Yes.
Tell us about that one.
Yeah, it's for a meat factory. So we had a customer coming up to us and said, "Hey, I want to use CO2." I said, "Okay, who are you? What did you do something before?" No, we never did, but we want to have a training and we can do that. And basically they did it. Of course, you have to make some support, but at COVID time, you cannot. So it was just by the phone and online, but it worked out. And now we are expecting some new orders coming from Israel, to be honest. So they are looking for products, and there's a big potential in the big markets here. So
it's crazy. So
yeah.
So the equator issue, CO2 in high ambience, which was always the argument that was used, CO2 will never be efficient. You would dispute that clearly, because Israel's not exactly cold.
There is so many energy enhancers now on the market. As you probably know, you have parallel compression that is clear for Israel, and then you have ejectors, you have EFA lift, whatever. So there is a lot of things available.
What's your solution? Well, how is your solution different from a typical ejector?
It's easier, I would say, but you can combine it with an ejector. It's just easier.
You can combine it with an ejector, okay.
Yeah, it's just easier, and you can use it for low temp. So that means you can use for low temp. If you have just a low temp application, you can use our patent easily. So that's quite nice. But to be honest, about this energy efficiency, this is just something stated everywhere. In my whole business life, I never lost one order because of energy efficiency. This was always something in the beginning, blah, blah, blah. But at the end, when I was in the ammonia industry, some competitor had a more energy efficient screw unit or whatever. There was no order lost because of energy efficiency finally. So what we're talking about is peanuts. And we all know if you have a new plant and somebody looks after a plant, it's very highly efficient. It doesn't matter if it's in Sudan or if it is somewhere else. So this is not really important. But the more important is to take care for a plant, to look after it. And then we talk about energy efficiency difference on the paper, which is not existing, efficiency between CO2 and refrigerants. So we showed it on several slides. If you really calculate, because you know that you have just a gas cooler, which has only 2 Kelvin delta T. And on the normal refrigerants, you have a condenser where you need to have condensing sets. You need to have a higher delta T. And this is getting energy efficiency. So where to take it from? So you can make both systems very energy efficient, but the price, there is no reason to do that. It's just a matter of training and a lack of competence sometimes, I think. But we have really customers who can do that. We have customers in South America can do that. We have customers now in Israel who can do that on an easy way. But energy efficiency finally is not less energy efficient than anything. I would state even more energy efficient. But it's always compare apples with apples and the real installation. If you have somebody taking care, you will have the best energy efficient plant. That's all.
So I interpret that as that energy efficiency is not the most important reason why people buy a CO2 system.
No. But it is energy efficient. That is not the problem. But it's not the reason why they buy it.
Well, what is the reason then?
The reason is because they want to be one thing at the moment we see in countries outside of Europe, companies want to be market leader. So they position themselves, they want to have the knowledge because they see it is coming. The trend is coming. So they want to get experience and want to position themselves as the leader in the market, which is good. And I think this is a trend because if the end user is also asking, it's a marketing thing. You know what now things happen? Because even if the end user can market that he is using low carbon footprint, he is using CO2 as if, you can make this marketing out. And it's something which is also necessary is that people understand, okay, this product is on natural refrigerants made. I think it's generally the trend is coming. And the price, of course, in other countries, the price is higher because even everybody has a lot of uncertainties. So the contractors take more margin in because they want to be safe, except a few ones which say, I want to try. And I want to have this technology. I want to push for it. And then if they have the first experience, then it goes. Because then the market sees, hey, there's another solution. Oh, it's not so much more expensive. Energy efficiency is not less, maybe even more. So, super, let's go.
And it's regulation free, future free.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to be banning CO2 in the future.
Yeah. We just shipped the unit to Congo.
Congo. Wow. Are you allowed to tell us a little bit about that one or not?
No, I'm not allowed to tell. I'm sorry.
All right, but a CO2 rack for probably an industrial installation in Congo.
Yeah.
Some cold storage facility, I'm guessing. where you're holding fruit before it's put into ships and shipped over to other parts of the world, right?
Yes, it's not the
That'd
cold
be
storage;
safe. Okay.
it's industrial process.
Oh, okay. Okay. My bad. My bad. All right.
No, don't
Well,
worry.
great. Okay. Well, that's great. So so where have you sold? How many countries have you sold CO2 units to? Of those 5,000, how many of them are outside Europe? Do you have an idea?
Oh, it's a minor part, huh? This is
Okay.
clear.
But now, in terms of now, when you are getting requests, purchase orders, emails, phone calls, LinkedIn messages, and so forth, where are you starting to see that now you're getting interest from outside Europe?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So it's really becoming a global phenomenon. I mean,
Yes.
it's not just a European thing or Japanese thing anymore. There are people all over the world that want CO2, and they're applying it right now. You've mentioned Israel. You've got an order now from Congo. You also have locations. You have sites I saw in Colombia.
Yes.
Tell
But
us about
also,
that one.
you know, Colombia is quite nice. So we have some good contacts there with some contractors, and Colombia is the market in South America which is using already CO2 on a base, I would say. Huh?
Absolutely. There's some
And
big players over there already. Yeah, no, definitely.
So it's a good market, and we see that people have very good knowledge and work it out. And we have now cold storages running on CO2 in Colombia. We have supermarkets running on CO2, and it's a market demand. You know, there's. Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Just.
You got these. When you told me about this, and this is interesting. You did all of these. You actually set up these sites remotely, right? You didn't actually. This is during COVID, when you couldn't travel.
No, it was before COVID. So
it was
Colombia.
Before COVID.
So this training was all before COVID.
Okay.
So,
okay. My bad.
Yeah, but it's
you had some startups online, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how is that possible? How have you been able to start up some CO2 sites without even traveling there? Because that's a big change also to the way the industry has been working, right?
Yeah, but if you train the people before on an online training course and you tell them what is really the need, and then you go with a camera and say, hey, did you do this? Next step, do this. Okay. So, you can, nowadays with the camera and everything, it's quite easy to do. So you can do it in a proper way. This is not the biggest problem anymore.
But that's a game changer, because that means that you can have like one unit in a headquarter and they're doing remote work, helping set up sites all over the world without having to the expense and the hassle and the stress of all going, traveling all the time.
Yeah, it would be very nice if all the shops would have a right internet connections, that you can always have also a few on the units. And if something is happening, you can react and tell the people, hey, take care for that. This is, of course, not happening. This would be great, because this is something which need to be more enhanced also from the whole industry, from the end user. It's not a big investment, but I think the investment is necessary to really have a proper service, and do things in a proper way, and you can have easy alarms and you see everything. So,
but I've heard of it in the industry. I think this is in Australia, where you've got these kind of augmented reality type glasses that you could put on some guys around the world, who then you can communicate with them and they can see things pop up on the screen whilst they're actually working on a system and connected with you. I mean, that's pretty out of this world and very modern and virtual, or augment or hybrid. No,
we are not so far. Yes,
you're not there yet, but you could imagine that. No.
Yes, the question is, as with the computers and with your teams and with Zoom and whatever, you're already so close. So I don't know if this one is helping you this further step, because you're already at the side and you say, hey, now left, right, maybe, but I think the technology, I don't know. To be honest, I never really, we never looked on that one, because then both parties have to have the same system. And we see already how it works. Somebody has a Google Meet, another one has a Zoom, another one has a Teams, and not everything is working on every computer. So maybe not now, maybe later.
Yeah. The IT industry is as diverse and divided as the refrigeration industry, right? They've got all these different platforms and software packages and laptops. Brands.
But I think, it's a big game, North America will pick up probably also in some days, you never know.
Yeah. So you know, there's been a recent change in the administration in the US, and this new administration has made it clear that there's a climate agenda, and they're going to support new tech. They're going to fund it. They're going to really invest in infrastructure and work on energy efficiency. So all of these are pretty good signs for the companies that work with natural refrigerants. It's a positive environment for them. It gives a lot more certainty than maybe it had existed in the past. Why hasn't TEKO looked at North America?
It's a shareholder decision.
It's a shareholder decision. It's just too big a market to take. Explore. No.
There is a reason why North America, the Americans want to know everything, but not give everything. So that is more an administrative thing and more a commercial thing and a liability issue.
Okay.
Because if you have to put on your microwave a sticker, don't put a cat in, maybe it's not our style,
Sure. Yeah.
So we worry about, if you look to a unit, you need to know what you need to do. Huh? So
sure.
I'm not sure if we prepared for that. So maybe with the right partner, do something in a partnership, whatever, it might be a possibility.
Okay.
But it's not something we are at the moment looking into, because North America is, for us, clear we don't touch at the moment. So
okay.
It's a little pity because it's bigger. So
it's a huge market. It's the biggest market yet to convert to naturals.
Yeah, it's also a nice market, but unfortunately we are not able to do that at the moment. So we have to focus on what we do. And I think we are, the problem is for everybody in our industry, we are growing fast and our core business is growing fast. So now you have to make some innovations. You need to do some innovations, go in other markets, but we are back to the people. So you need to have the right stuff. You need to have people making proposals. You need to have people who train the people, who have people to go at the side. So it's a leveraging effect, which you need to have. So that is one of the biggest issues we're having.
Yeah.
But looking into it, I think there is for everything a solution, but it takes time again. If you all grow to a certain range, you need to get new people in. New people need to get experience. It makes the next step. So this is something you need to grow. And this, for us, it's also the same. I always look on a company like a tree, which you have to harvest, you have to take care. And if there is some tree which is maybe not so good anymore, and you see, this tree is not very fruitful and you want to have another direction, so you need to cut the tree. So you need to cut the freon out of your business. You know what I mean? So this is something, otherwise you do too much. So you need to focus and then try to have everything growing in the direction where it should be.
That's the challenge that all CEOs, I guess, have,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, because in the end, you have to run a profitable business, because if you're not profitable, there is no business future, right? So yeah, it's a challenge because you have to make choices.
Yes.
And sometimes they're not easy ones, and maybe sometimes people in the team don't necessarily understand that.
No, of course not. You cannot take everybody on the journey. That is, I think, also a communication issue, because the market is so fast.
Sure.
And sometimes it's a problem. Yes.
But yeah, talking about the fast market here, you've been in the industry 20 years. So have I, in a different perspective, from a different role. But that's 40 years of experience, right? It's not bad, I would say. And I would say that the kind of level of disruption that we're having right now has never actually happened.
No.
Right? This is the most exciting time to be in the cooling industry.
Yes. But also one of the most challenging times, because what we see is now we are having, as we mentioned before, again, a supply chain issue. In the beginning of COVID, there was a little issue. Now it's again an issue. And we not talk about the prices, because the prices of every parts and everything for everybody in the whole industry is rising. Yeah? For whatever reasons, maybe some want to make more margin or something happening. It's just at the moment, this supply chain is very critical. Suppliers are not delivering, even if order confirmation is written everything down, they're not delivering. So now you have to take measures. You have to use another supplier. As a supplier means you have to make a new construction. So all these things happening. I think everybody in our industry is at the moment completely busy with supply chain. So all CEOs, their main focus and their purchasing department, I think everybody is doing a great job. But it's really, at the moment, it's crazy. Electronics is an issue. So everybody which is dealing with electronics or has something to do, they don't get some microprocessors. So there is cables, you don't get in Germany a cables anymore. Huh? So if you want to have cables, you know, you pay 20%
Why
more.
don't you get cables? Why don't you get these copper cables?
Yeah, you know, I heard the story from a supplier that he said, yeah, it's because of this. It's not the copper inside, but is the surrounding, the plastic, is the plastic which is used for the COVID tests, and all the capacity is going into the COVID tests because it's more margin for them.
Wow.
So this is, if you want to build a house now in Germany, you have a big problem because even the electricians don't get a cable anymore. So this is something really strange at the moment. Yeah? So let's see. I hope it gets better soon. But this, until now we are fine. But
okay, but you see this kind of disruption in the supply chain hurting your business, because right now is when you're seeing a lot of growth, right? More than ever before. But at the same time, you're facing a challenge of actually having the components to build your systems.
Yes. And it's
so
also,
how are you handling that? How are you handling that with your customers? What are you telling your customers about this? How are you telling them this?
Because first of all, you know, you have a long business relations with some supermarkets. So we have a supply chain where we say, okay, this customer, of course, first, you know, because you have to have a business relation. And then some projects, even you have long lead times, you cannot supply. So because you say delivery times is now, if for special heat exchangers, maybe 16 weeks. So you need to have this time. Huh? And compressors, it's the same. You have a long lead time. Some manufacturers less, some manufacturers more, but because there's a high demand. So there is more things coming together. There's a high demand, and we always have that house. If there is a low, you know, if there's a high on the market, everybody is ordering even more because everybody is afraid not getting enough supply.
Sure.
So is like this going up at the moment. So it's yeah. Sometimes you have to be honest to customer and say, yeah, we want to order. You say, okay, but delivery time is long because first comes, first serves. Yeah? And you have to have your priorities. Unfortunately, even if we have a big stock, you know, we're private owned, so that is very good for us. If I look to stock exchange companies where I have been before, what happens when there's a crisis? Yeah. Upper management says, hey, cut down your working capital, which is stock, which is everything, you know, supply. So this is the first thing they're cutting down. And then if everything starts, they're not ready. So it takes supply chain and all these things to come up again. And that is what we're struggling because most of our suppliers are big organizations. And I can tell you, the funniest thing is most of our suppliers tell us, yeah, it's a problem at the moment because some parts we needed were on the ship, which was stuck in the Suez Canal. So it seems like every supplier parts were on the ship, which is coming through the Suez Canal. This is one of the funniest joke ever, which is of course not true. Huh?
Yeah,
but
sure,
you know,
sure.
I know companies. One of our partners is Embraco, you know, Nidec, for the small compressors also, and they flew in parts from China by airplane and had a big cost to get the factories in Europe running because there were no parts anymore. So it's something which is
crazy.
Always up and down. Yeah.
Okay. So that is disruption. You expect that to continue for the rest of the year, or do you hope that after the summer things will improve?
After the summer, probably not, because in Europe we have some countries which take a long summer holiday, like usually, and these factories are down. So there is no output in these times. So you can order, but I think supply chain will keep critical the next 2-3 months. I think so. I hope then it gets better, but it's not, it's not really affecting us up to now. But sometimes we are a little bit careful, because it doesn't make sense to take an order when you cannot deliver. So to be very clear. So we need to be honest to ourselves and say, hey, it's not possible. And we are the big, we have problems like it's unbelievable. You don't get, for example, some parts like a steel metal sheet for a housing. Everything is designed in 2 millimeters. You don't get the 2 millimeters on the market. So you have to switch to 1.5 millimeters. So make a new design and all these things. It's a disaster.
Andreas, we're coming close to the end of the stream. So I've got 2-3 more minutes. I've already fielded a few questions that we got from the audience. And I'm just seeing one now about you are probably, I'll read it out. You are probably getting government support for your installations in Germany. How are your impressions? Is the German government equally supportive for NatRefs and HFOs in the process of accrediting the new systems? So first, are you getting funding support from German government for your systems? And yes.
So we are not an installer, so we don't get funding support. And we are not an end user, which is getting the funding support. So the end user normally is getting some funding support.
Okay.
Yes, there is on some energy efficient ratios, they have a funding in Germany, and some on the natural refrigerants. But I'm not inside, to be honest, really.
Okay.
So there is some specialists, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. And it's not something that's really impacting your day to day?
No.
Okay. And is your impression that the German government is equally supportive of natural refrigerants and HFOs, or there's a difference?
I have not really a clue, but I think it's not. I think they have a certain GWP, but I'm not inside one, to be honest.
Yeah, so it's just, as long as you are below a certain GWP, then it could be any refrigerant, right? That's logically how it works in many other countries.
I think so, but to be honest,
I
don't know. Yeah.
Okay, understood. All right. Okay, I asked you already a question about Latin America. So, I mean, looking at the last minute, are there any other comments you want to say? We talked about heat pumps, air conditioning, outside Europe, legislation a little bit, supply chain, hiring talent, anything that we missed?
No, if there is some young engineer outside,
then they know where to go. Okay, they can find you on LinkedIn, right?
No, I hope to be clear.
Sure.
So for everybody in the market, I hope to have a safe time and have a good business using natural refrigerants, and our business is growing. So we should stay together and we should talk to each other how it works and learn from each other, because everybody has some good points where we can accelerate our industry in a total. That Perfect. Is my statement.
All right. As we like to say at TEKO, go NatRefs.
Yes.
Go natural refrigerants. That hashtag, by the way, is becoming quite popular on LinkedIn. Got hundreds and hundreds of people following it. So it's a good way to build momentum and get more awareness around these solutions that are popping up left, right, and center around the globe. So I want to thank you, Andreas, for taking the time to be the first to do this video live stream with R744.com. I'm sure that our paths will cross again and we'll get an opportunity to do this again and to catch up on the latest developments. But thank you again. And I hope that for the audience, there was some useful, bits of information in this conversation that you can take back and use for your decision making going forward. So thank you, everyone. And I'm now going to stop the live stream and wish you all a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.